I want to break free. I want to break free.
So I read that C.S. Lewis wrote about Christianity and said that it was the tale of the real king of the universe coming to earth in disguise. Is God really hidden? In 1 John chapter 1 verse 11, I read that John wrote that he came into his own creation and they had received him not. For many times, or for a long time, I would always believe that only pertained to the Jews. I don't think that's it any longer. Because if I think about it more, where Jesus, it's like God in the second person, came into his own creation, and his creation didn't recognize him. Do we really recognize him? I mean, just because us as human beings don't perceive God as the way God should be, does that mean he's hidden? It doesn't mean he doesn't exist. I remember the story in the scripture where Jesus brought this man back from the dead, out of the tomb. He had been in the tomb for 4 days. Brought him back to life, and many people believed. But however, there were some that ran to the leaders of a religious sect and told them, and the leaders of that religious group had made a decision and began to plot to kill Jesus, and not only Jesus but Lazarus too. Ultimately, I believe they wanted to keep God hidden. But just as I said before, us as human beings, just because we don't see God doesn't mean he doesn't exist. I'm kind of reminded that, or think about that, there was a prophet in the Bible named Elijah. And Elijah was depressed and had fell just in a horrible place in his life. And a fire happened and great winds happened. And Elijah thought that God was in that great fire. Elijah thought that God was supposed to be in that great wind. And if we think God is all in the flashy things and in the loud things and in the boisterous things and in the things that make us feel good all the time, or, is he really in that, or is he just in the small, gentle flame? Or is he in the small, gentle wind? Because if we concentrate on the smaller things, then maybe we'll actually hear the gentle voice of God. Because I don't believe that, or I perceive God not to be somebody that's all about the big and the loud things, but the gentle things that speak to our heart. So how do we see God? How do we perceive God to be? I'm reminded of Jeremiah. Jeremiah had to deal with certain things that, Israel decided that they wanted to see God in a certain way, so they created idols and they created things what they thought God should be like. But that wasn't right. Think about all the people that were trained in this unbelief. Where are they at right now? I mean, think of yourself. Do you reject a new move or a way of God, even though you sit there and you clench your table or your chair saying, I'm not going to move because that's not how I was taught of how God should move or how God should be? Jeremiah told the people in Israel, you worship all the wrong things. You see God in all the wrong ways. So when God actually comes, let the things, the idols, and the people you worship come and save you then. The writer in Proverbs says that a man's careless lifestyle or a man's careless thinking is the ruin of his life. And his heart actually rages against God. It's like he blames God for it. God isn't really hidden. But tragically, we think so. It's really our choices and our sin that keeps God hidden. You know, just because a blind man doesn't see something doesn't really mean it doesn't exist. The problem doesn't rest with God. It's in our vision. So let's think about it. If you look to your right and you look to your left, what do you actually see? You see people on your left and on your right. If you look in the middle, you see people there. So if you look at people and you look at everything around you, do you really see God? I mean, God just isn't a figure of our imagination. God is actually living in the people around you. And whether you want to believe it or not, God is living inside of each one of us. So when God begins to pull at you and God begins to speak to you, don't reject Him by clenching your table or clenching your chair. Actually get up and begin to move and watch God show Himself in a way that you never thought that you would see God.